a person with a giant jaw that eats humans in the street and causes panic among the public. Imagine you're sitting peacefully in the street, and suddenly you see someone open their mouth in a way you've never seen before, swallowing a person right in front of you. If I were in you, honestly, my heart would stop. So God help the characters in the movie. Chompy and the Girls is one of the fantasy films released in 2021. It starts with Jackson, starts off standing in the office room, tying a chic red rope to the ceiling fan. She makes a large knot, big enough to fit her head through. Below it, there's an office chair. Jackson decides to end her life as simply as if it were something she owned, not belonging to God. She climbs onto the chair, starts joking around, slips her hand through the knot, then puts her head in, pushes the chair away, and begins to hang herself. And of course, you think she's gonna die, right? Then we'll go back and tell her story. What led her to this point? Or maybe after we tell her story, her lover, the one who broke her heart, will come and save her or something like that. The fan falls from her weight, breaks apart, and she can't even kill herself. Now she's stuck without a fan too. Then Sam, coming home from work, exhausted. He has a box inside a fancy-looking bag and finds his wife sitting with her laptop, clearly busy, and she says to him, "What's up?" She asks, "What are you doing here so early? Didn't you say you'd be late at work on Wednesday?" He replies, "No, it's only Tuesday. Today is normal." She then asks, "What did you bring with you?" He says, "A really nice gift from a friend who resigned." She responds, "Oh, you have friends?" He says, "Never mind, just focus on what you're doing." She insists, No, come on, don't be upset. Tell me about your day and how things are." He senses she's not really interested, but since she's pretending to care, he decides to give it a try. Then he pulls out a pair of shoes from the box and says, "My friend said he's going to retire early and move to the swamps." She responds, "What the hell is this?" He tells her, he says he's going to catch crocodiles and trade their skins and meat. He'll make $350,000 a year, which is way more than his current salary. Then he realizes she's busy and not interested in the conversation, so he says, "Okay, when you're done, we can talk if you want or if you have the energy to talk afterward." He leaves Jackson, who's calling one of her friends to borrow some drugs, and says, "I really don't have anything, I swear." Then she tries to borrow from someone else, but he also says no and hangs up on her. So she calls a guy named Lotus, a friend of hers. She greets him and asks how he's doing. He tells her, "I have a church event tonight." She replies, "You're not invited to it, but if you'd like to go out and walk around, don't worry, we won't buy anything." He says, "Look, Jackson, we're not close enough for me to go out and chat with you, so I'm sorry, but I'm not available." Jackson feels like everyone is avoiding her, and no one can tolerate her in their lives. She plays music and starts crying. Then, Sam again at home with his wife. She asks, "What's for dinner?" He replies, "I didn't cook, I brought sandwiches." She responds, "Sandwiches? Is that what we're having for dinner?" He says, "Honestly, it's better than nothing. I didn't bring anything last week, so I thought I'd make it up to you when I came back." So she says, "This week I brought it without you asking, but sandwiches aren't really dinner." He responds, "It's up to you, but just remember, if you keep complaining about what we have, the blessings we have might be taken away." Then he receives a message from Jackson where she tells him, "I'm your daughter," as he is about to tell Deborah that there's someone is scamming him. The message continues saying, "I've been your daughter for a long time. I'm 24 years old. My mom found out about her pregnancy with me after she broke up with you and never told you. I really want to see you." He responds, asking when she wants to meet, and she says, "Probably now." He then tells his wife he has to go back to work because they called him in to fix some computer issues that have come up. He mentions that he's not sure when he'll be back. She comments on his choice of shoes, saying they look bad, but he responds that they're comfortable and that it's his choice. He dismisses her remarks, leaves, and heads out. Then, Jackson's sitting in the garden, enjoying nature, when Sam approaches her from behind and asks, "Are you Jackson?" She replies, "Yes." He then asks, "Is this some sort of money scam or a hidden camera show?" Jackson tells him, "Sit down. I don't want money or anything from you. I'm your daughter, from your college sweetheart. She got pregnant 2 weeks after she broke up and she didn't want to tell you." He says, "I never knew. How long have you known?" She replies, "I've always known you were my father. It's normal." He then asks, "And how's your mother doing?" She says, "She's fine, I guess. I don't see her much. We've been separated for a long time and we argue sometimes." He comments, "I like your t-shirt." She responds, "Thank you." He asks, "Is it famous?" She explains, "It's a portrait of someone who killed her family with an axe in the 19th century. He says, "Oh, I know her." She tells him, "A friend of mine couldn't find himself a job or any business, so he started a t-shirt printing project. He makes weird designs, usually of notorious figures like this one, and Manson." She continues, "But do they really look like notorious figures?" He replies, "Not at all. It just looks like a cool t-shirt." He then adds, "I'd really like to get to know you better." However, he adds, "But unfortunately, I can't continue this conversation. I didn't know you existed all these years and now you've suddenly shown up." I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed and uneasy. As he's about to leave, Jackson notices a girl standing calmly, while a man with an enormous open mouth approaches her. Sam, confused, watches what's happening. The man suddenly swallows the girl in his huge mouth. Then, he looks at them, closes his mouth, and starts running toward them. Both Sam and Jackson quickly run to their cars and drive away from the place as fast as they can. Fortunately, the man can't catch up with them, and he eventually leaves as well. Then, Sam arrives home, where his wife is still sitting in front of the laptop. She asks, "Did you have dinner?" Realizing she ate without him, and that she's typically not interested in waiting for him to eat, he responds, "Yeah, I had lunch, just as usual." He sits down, without even changing his clothes, and starts watching TV with her, even though she's already finished her work and is just relaxing, not specifically waiting for him. Later, Jackson at her place, searching for information about a man who eats girls. She scrolls through the results and finds mostly nonsensical information about parasites and other strange topics. She then hears a loud knock at the door and gets scared. However, she opens the door to find no one there. She closes the door and returns inside, but this time the knocking is even louder and more frightening. She goes to open the door again and finds the man with the enormous, open mouth standing right in front of her. He chases after her, trying to swallow her, but she runs away, grabbing a broom to defend herself. He grabs the broom and throws it aside. She hits him and manages to run out of the home while he chases her. Then, Sam, who is in the kitchen looking for something to eat before bed. Suddenly, Jackson bursts into his house. As soon as she enters, she says, "Why aren't you answering your phone? Am I begging you for something?" He asks, "What are you doing here?" She replies, "We need to leave right now. The man we saw this morning was at my place about 20 minutes ago." Then she adds, "He's chasing me and he'll come to you next." Sam responds, "I'm not leaving or going out with you in the middle of the night." Just then, his wife comes in and asks, "Who is this, Sam?" Jackson tells, "You didn't tell her?" Then she says to Deborah, "I'm his daughter." Sam adds, "Don't hassle me, Deborah. I just found out today that she's my daughter." Frustrated, Jackson says, "I'm fed up with all this nonsense. The man isn't after your wife, he's after you and I, and we need to leave now." Then Jackson says, "Let's go before I have to use this," as she holds a knife, and she adds that she worked in a circus for a while and knows how to throw knives. Then Sam's wife looks out the door aimlessly and spots the man walking down the street. She asks, "Who is that?" They realize it's the man who was chasing them earlier. Sam decides to leave with Jackson. Sam's wife gives him a hat and says, "Stay safe." He then gets in the car with Jackson and asks, "Where are we going now?" She replies, "To Lotus, my friend." At the church event, there's a stranger who reads strange books about magic and the occult, and he's the one who might be able to help them. Jackson asks, "So how are you, Sam? Do you love your wife?" Sam replies, "Just as usual." Meanwhile, his wife continues to call him without getting a response. Jackson tells him, "Good job not answering. Just send her a message saying everything is fine so she doesn't get angry and fuck you up." He tells Jackson, "She's got nothing to do with this. I'm the one controlling my life," and throws the hat away, clearly unhappy with his wife and his life with her. Next, the girl who was swallowed by the man earlier, now walking down the street late at night. Then, Deborah, at home, feeling regretful about her neglect and ignoring her husband. She keeps sending him voice messages apologizing, promising to make up for her past behavior, and expressing her remorse. He sends her his location to reassure her and tells her to hurry and get dressed so she can meet him where he is now. They arrive at the house where the party is taking place. Jackson tells him, "Let's go in together." He responds, "I'm not going in there. Am I a kid?" She insists, "You should come in so the man doesn't find you alone. If that happens, I won't be able to help you." He agrees, saying, "You're right, let's go." And they enter the house. Inside, the place is filled with strangers engaging in every imaginable vice, gambling, drinking, drug use, and other immoral activities. They search for Lotus amid the chaos. Jackson asks someone, "Have you seen Lotus?" The person replies, "Why? Are you trying to find him or something?" Jackson responds, "Just make sure you don't end up missing out." Then, they see a man emerging from a smoky underground passage and asks Jackson, "Why are you here? Do you have an invitation?" She responds, "Invitation? This isn't the opera house. Get yourself together before I report this place to the police." She continues, "We're dealing with a man who eats people in a bizarre way. We saw him eating a girl right in front of us." The man replies, "Oh, that's something called a multidimensional declassify." She says, "I don't really get it." He says, "Me neither. And who is this?" Jackson responds, "This is Dad." They enter the room and Jackson says, "We need your help. Can you do a magical circle or something to help us face this creature?" The man replies, "Sure, that's easy." She says, "Can you make like a protective circle where anyone crossed it will die?" Jackson confirms, "Yes, exactly." As they speak, they notice a girl standing with a young man. The man puts a pill into her drink. Lotus rushes over, drinks from the cup and tells her, "That guy put a pill in your drink." Then they took him and went out. Sam says, Are you stupid? If he put pills in her drink, don't drink it in front of her. You don't know what those pills are or what they could do. Jackson speculates. It's probably birth control pills. Sam adds, or something hallucinogenic. We'll find out soon. They get into the car and Lotus says, "Come to my place. I have a library full of magical books. They should help with what you need." As they drive, Lotus begins to hallucinate and spouts incoherent nonsense. He starts swerving, and Jackson yells at him, trying to get him to stop acting erratically. Then, they spot the girl who was swallowed earlier in the morning on the road. They stop, frightened, and Sam decides to get out. Jackson tries to stop him and warns him not to get out, but he doesn't listen. Sam approaches the girl and asks, "What are you doing out here alone at 3 a.m.?" Jackson chimes in, "Are we on a game show or something? What's your name?" The girl responds, "My name is Batula." Jackson asks, "And what are you doing here?" The girl replies, "I'm waiting for my mom." Jackson asks, "Your mom is coming to pick you up at 3 a.m.? Is she a stripper or something?" The girl answers, "No." Jackson then asks, "Weren't you eaten yesterday?" Sam tries to calm her down, telling Jackson to ease up on the girl and that she's essentially interrogating her. Jackson responds, "But I know these kinds of situations well." Jackson asks the girl where she was yesterday, and she replies she was at the cinema. When asked the movie's name, she says it was The Banana Man, but her vague and evasive answers suggest she's lying. Suddenly, they spot the man who's been chasing them. They decide to flee, taking the girl with them. Sam helps her into the car and adjusts her seatbelt. Jackson, frustrated, tells him to forget about the seatbelt since their immediate concern is escaping the man who might devour them all. They manage to get into the car and drive off just in time. As they drive, the girl seems uneasy around them. Jackson chats with her father and asks if he has any other children. He replies, "No." Jackson then comments, "But you were more of a father to that girl in the few minutes you were with her than you were to me." When they arrive at the house, Sam tells her to help get the girl and the drunken boy inside. She responds, "Give me a moment, I'll come help." Jackson goes to the garage to take her dose of drugs, and her father follows her in. He sees her using heroin and exclaims, "Heroin? What the fuck?" Jackson responds, "Come on, calm down. Who can even buy heroin these days? It's just a little something to keep me going." She then confronts him, saying, "Are you gonna act like my father now? You wanted to leave us behind when you found out I was your daughter." They all head into the house and the girl remains anxious. Sam reassures her that they need to be cautious so that the man following them doesn't come after her. They all enter the house together. Jackson takes Lotus inside and tells him to stay awake. He is reminding her that she owes his money. She replies that she remembers, and she assures him she'll give it to him, but he needs to stay alert for now. She then scolds him for drinking the girl's drink without knowing what was in it, pointing out that it turned out to be hallucinogens. She asks about the book he mentioned, which is on the nightstand, and starts reading it, thanking him for his help. Jackson, feeling guilty for her past behavior and recognizing that she exploited Lotus before, embraces him and thanks him for always helping her. She then leaves and finds her father, who is lying on the floor with the girl, Sam, sucking his head. In a panic, Jackson pushes Sam away, causing the girl to flee outside. Jackson then focuses on her father, who is waking up confused, not remembering what happened. He asks how long he was unconscious, and Jackson tells him it was just a short while. He then notices something wrong with his leg and looks at Jackson suspiciously. Jackson tells her father that his shoe was fine, and she even mentioned that she liked it earlier. However, the problem isn't the shoe. When he removes it, they are shocked to see that his leg is transformed into that of a child. He's stunned and unsure of what to do. Jackson explains that the girl they encountered must be responsible for this transformation. They then look for her outside to understand what happened but can't find her. Just then, the strange man arrives, and Jackson quickly shuts the door to keep him out. Then her father says they can't keep running forever if they don't confront the situation. He decides to go outside and talk to the strange man to understand what he wants and what they can do about it. Jackson warns him that it's dangerous, but he insists that their current situation isn't safe either. He opens the door to speak with the man. As soon as they open the door, they see him and Sam greets him, asking what's happening and if he can communicate. Jackson is uncomfortable with her father's approach and repeats her concern, noting the man's unsettling appearance. The man then opens his mouth wide, showing his true, frightening nature. The man gestures for them to enter, pointing inside his mouth as if they should jump in. Jackson, overwhelmed and tired from thinking, decides to go in. After a while, they find themselves in a place resembling a galactic setting. A voice introduces itself and welcomes them. The voice explains that it belongs to the man whose mouth they are inside. It clarifies that there's been a misunderstanding. It wasn't about them, but rather about helping the man. He reveals that he is chasing a girl named Batola, not because he's after her, but because he's pursuing an evil parasite within her. This parasite, when it touches anyone, turns them into a copy of itself. He's trying to eliminate these copies, but sometimes they escape him. Sam mentions the issue with his leg, and the man explains that the girl was trying to transform every version of herself, but she didn't manage to complete it. He says that once he eats the remaining versions, everything will return to normal, and his leg will heal and return to its original size. He emphasizes that they need to help him and not hide anything from him. Afterward, they go outside, stand in front of him, and start laughing. They apologize, saying, "We were wrong about you. You're actually a good guy, and we're sorry we were scared of you. We promise to help you." As they turn to leave, they find Deborah's car hitting the man, and she gets out, very pleased, saying, "Thank God I've killed him. You don't need to be afraid anymore." Jackson then tells her, "Damn you, that parasite won't leave us alone and we're still in danger. You've completely ruined everything." Deborah responds, "Come on, help me put him in my car trunk and come with me." When they ask where they are going, she says, "No questions. Just come with me and stay quiet." They go to a restaurant and the group tells Deborah that this is not the time for dining. They need to solve their problems. Deborah responds, "What a mess you are. You've ruined our lives, and even when there's a simple solution, you complicate things more." She insists, "Order something now. I don't want to hear complaints because I'm fed up with you all." Deborah orders coffee and other things for herself, while Sam only orders some pastrami. Deborah pretends to read the menu, as usual, to align with the situation but is not really interested. Jackson looks at her with disgust, and Sam can't stand her either. After the coffee is served, Deborah asks, "Are you upset with my behavior?" She then spills coffee on the table in front of them and continues, "I've lived alone all my life. No one wants me. Neither my mother nor my father, once he knew I existed, wanted me." They respond, "Ah, so this is a therapy session. All right, just let it all out and feel better." Then Deborah says, "Let's go." They ask, "Go where?" Deborah replies, "Let's go find the girl with the parasite. We have the guy with the huge mouth in the trunk." Then we see a woman talking on the phone in the street. She notices Batula crying in front of her and asks, "What's wrong, sweetie? Do you need help?" Before she can finish her sentence, copies of Batula transform the kind girl into another one of her copies. Later, the couple on their way home. It turns out they had put the man in the trunk, and they had left him at Lotus's house. They are now trying to figure out what to do next. Deborah then tells Sam, "You told me that if I don't like these events, you should get a divorce a while ago. So, are you referring to what you just said?" He told her, "As for you, I'm not happy. I feel like you don't care about me. I feel like I'm just a co-worker, not your husband. We'll talk about this later, not now." Immediately after, they find copies of Batula on the street. They run to catch one of them, put it in the car trunk, and a security guard sees them. The guard is about to move because, from his perspective, they're kidnapping a child. Jackson runs up to him, performs some strange gestures to scare him, and he indeed gets scared and lets her go. Jackson then tells them, "When you act like you're crazy, everyone is scared of you." Then they take her and head to Sam's house. Meanwhile, we see Lotus waking up from the drugs he took and drinking something to recover. He notices the body with the large mouth in his house, which is just sitting there. He handles it normally. Then, Sam's house, where everyone is trying to restrain the girl and secure her so she doesn't harm them all. Suddenly, they hear a loud banging at the door, which startles them. They go outside and find copies of Batula attacking the house. They rush to block the windows. After securing all the openings and locking all the doors, they try to figure out their next move. They notice Deborah is missing and run to find out where she went. They discover that Batula has bitten her, and she's unconscious. Sam revives her, telling her that he will never divorce her or leave her and that he loves her. Meanwhile, Jackson calls Lotus and he asks about the strange things she put in his house. She tells him to come to Sam's house and bring the stuff in his car. Lotus replies that he's nearby and mentions that there are many strange copies of the girl. Jackson tells Lotus that they are trapped and need to get the copy inside to put in the man's mouth. Lotus responds that he can't do it because they're watching him and he'll be killed. Frustrated, Jackson jumps into the man's mouth and throws a copy of the girl inside. The girl inside the mouth is asking for help, saying that the parasite has her and she can't escape. The girl needs to transfer the parasite to another host to escape. Jackson tells the girl to go into her body, and once the transfer is made, Jackson is the one who will face the challenge. However, Sam appears and scolds her for trying to handle it. He encourages and supports her. Eventually, Jackson manages to get rid of the parasite, but they all find themselves trapped inside the man's body. Deborah and Lotus throw a rope and manage to pull them out. They find that all the copies of Batula have returned to their original state and everything is restored. Sam's leg returns to normal and everything is resolved. In the end, everything is satisfactory. Lotus forgives Jackson for her behavior, and Sam reconciles with Deborah, who promises to live a respectful and attentive life with him. They decide to celebrate the happy ending by going out to eat savory and sweet pies with cream cheese and custard. The movie ends. If you have a strange film you like us to summarize, leave its name in the comments. The film with 100